Well, good evening, everybody. Wanted to welcome you to our webinar tonight. And the topic is on how to lose stubborn belly fat by balancing hormones and improving gut health. And I look at this as a little bit different because if you've struggled with belly fat before or you've had excess weight in the past, I want you to just know that it may not be your fault. There's not really a one size fits all approach to achieving and maintaining ideal weight. And sometimes conventional approaches, they might work for some, but they might not work for all. And if you've ever thought there must be a better way, then you're right, because that's what we're here to talk about today. And so the goals for today's workshop is to share with you why fad diets, dangerous medications, and hours of strenuous exercise may not be working for you. We're going to show you how we help our patients lose weight and keep it off. And we're going to talk about 3 secrets to long-term weight loss. So my name is Dr. Michael Bell, and I'm a former personal trainer. I'm a lifelong fitness enthusiast. I've been in private practice for 21 years, and I've been a functional medicine practitioner for about 10 years. And I'm the clinical director of an integrative wellness clinic in Temecula, California. And kind of the reason I've been wanting to do this talk, I've been working on this for a little while, this is born out of just my personal history as a personal trainer, and then just working with our patients over the last few years and trying to figure out why people complain about losing weight, why some people can lose weight. And, when I was doing personal training, we'd have patients or clients that work out 5 to 6 days a week. They were chronically over exercising, and you could tell it was too much. It was stressing out their bodies. They'd spend thousands on supplements and counting calories, doing all the right things, and then a few years later, the apps, you could track your macros, and there was all kinds of stuff that happened on our cell phones. But half of the clients that I worked with just never seemed to lose weight. Even they were strong, they were fit, they were reasonably healthy. They just couldn't seem to cut the weight. But the funny thing was some people would eat horribly, but they were extremely fit. And I can never figure that out either. That was always perplexing. So as the years went on and I decided to become a doctor, and I went through the science classes and the nutrition classes, things started to make sense. And that's what led to me to start studying functional medicine about 10 years ago. So the one thing that I found is that quick fixes often fail. And around 10 years ago, we became a clinic that medically integrated. And so what that means is we had a team of doctors and chiropractors, and we added some medical services to our practice. And one of the things we did was medical weight loss. And that essentially involved prescription diet pills. So you might have heard of phentermine, or a while ago, there was something called HCG, which is a pregnancy hormone that people would inject to cause their body to lose weight. Well, the thing that we started to notice is about 6 months later, patients were coming back and they were wanting to do the program over again. They were wanting more pills, or they were having issues with just gaining the weight back, or was coming back really fast or intensely. And so as they would go through the program and go through our medical weight loss program the second and third time, they took the pills, but nothing really happened. So it seemed like their metabolism was worse. They just would look at food and things would, just get really off track for them. So I knew this wasn't the answer. And we basically ended up stopping our medical weight loss program. That was kind of an epiphany moment for me, because when we did this, we ran labs with our patients. And so after starting to look at these lab tests and looking at these patients and looking at who lost weight, who didn't, who kept it off, so on and so forth, we noticed some commonalities. And the patients that were having trouble losing the weight, or the patients that would have weight come back, they often suffered from liver toxicity and gut inflammation. Well, it turns out there's about 200 different hormonal processes that contribute to hormones in the body through the liver and the gut. So the thinking was then, gosh, if we can get hormones and inflammation under control, then I wonder if weight loss would happen just naturally for patients. And that turns out that's what started to happen. So we began to look at weight loss not really as the problem, but more of the symptom. And so we had to experiment with different approaches. We eventually fell on a system that was easy to follow. It produced measurable results in about 6 to 8 weeks. But then we were also finding that patients were reaching their weight loss goals a lot faster and keeping it off. And a lot of these patients were hitting their goals in 4 to 6 months. Now, the one thing that we also have to remember with being overweight and dealing with issues of obesity and things of that nature is not only is it just something that people find unattractive or not something that they want to have on their body, but we also can suffer from things like thyroid issues. We can have diabetes. There can be high blood pressure, and there's many other things that can happen as a result of being overweight. So I want to share some slides with you really quickly here. And so I'm just going to bounce over, and I wanted to start with a client of ours, and this is Alicia. And Alicia did amazing with our program, and she's lost 52 pounds as of probably about a month ago, and she lost that in 6 months, but she's maintained a 52 to 55 pound weight loss since starting our program in May of last year. So at 4 weeks, she lost about 19 pounds, and at 8 weeks, she lost about 35 pounds. Now, she was going to come on tonight and tell you her story. She couldn't actually make it, so she recorded a testimonial for us. So I'd like to play that for you now.
Hi, my name's Alicia Michalajczyk, and I'm doing the functional medicine program with Vitality Integrative Wellness. And I started doing the program because I was super tired, lethargic, overweight. I could never lose weight with all the different programs that I tried, or if I did anything, I would end up gaining weight rather than losing weight. And after 2 pregnancies with gestational diabetes, it then turned into type 2 diabetes. So I was just had horrible brain fog, was tired, exhausted all the time. Doctors wanted to put me on insulin, and I didn't want to go that route. So I started the functional medicine program, and within the first month, I had lost 19 pounds. And then after 4 months, my A1C had dropped from 9.9 down to 5.2, which then technically reversed my type 2 diabetes. And then after 5 months, I was down almost 55 pounds, and I'm almost at the year mark now, and I've maintained that 55-pound weight loss, and I no longer have brain fog. I have energy. I feel strong. I feel healthy. We just went hiking this past weekend, and my 2-year-old decided he didn't want to walk, and I was able to carry him the entire time without having to stop or feeling overwhelmed or anything like that. And Vitality Integrative Wellness made it easy, like with their coaching and just being able to make changes as far as the foods or supplements to where I could do this long term and I can maintain my weight loss and keep the energy and feel good. And I'm just super excited for all the changes that I've been able to make and that they've helped me be able to make. And I'm so thankful for it and just the way that I feel and the things that I'm able to do now. So thank you.
All right, so that's one of my favorite success stories that I just wanted to share with everybody. So I don't know about you, but that's super motivating for us as a staff to see patients get their lives back, to get healthy. And if you're ready to do this, I want you to type yes in the comments right now, and let's get down to the nitty gritty here. So the secret number 1 to losing weight is that hormones and leaky gut can silently cause you to gain weight without you knowing it. And there's 3 main hormones that cause you to store fat. And the first one is known as cortisol, and that's our stress hormone. The second one is insulin, and that's part of how our body processes and stores sugar. And then the third one is estrogens, which will have to do with toxins, and we'll explain that in just a moment. But cortisol being your stress hormone, you might have heard of the fight or flight response before. And this is where your blood pressure raises, your digestion stops, and your alertness increases. The main thing that cortisone does is it increases sugar in the bloodstream, and it can also turn muscle protein into glucose. So there's some issues that we can have with high cortisol level over the long term. And our current fast-paced, stress-laden culture causes our cortisol levels to stay elevated. And when we test cortisol, normally cortisol should be high in the morning and low late in the afternoon. But the problem that we're finding is cortisol tends to stay elevated throughout the entire day. So some symptoms of stress You probably have one or more of these at one point in your life, but headaches is one symptom of stress, with allergies, neck and back pain, poor sleep, irritability, digestive problems, fatigue. I mean, I know probably one or more of these you've had, at least I know I have in the past. But let's talk about insulin and the blood sugar hormone, or why it's the blood sugar hormone. The main function of insulin is to lower blood sugar, and it also causes your cells to absorb sugar. The interesting thing with sugar is that when we have excess or unused sugar in our system, our body stores it as fat, and at certain levels, it can become toxic. And so toxins tend to get stored in our fat cells. So if we have excess sugar, or we're consuming too much sugar, then that's going to hinder weight loss. But statistically, we consume about 150 pounds of sugar annually in the United States. The other hormone we mentioned was estrogen, and it's commonly known as the female hormone, but men and women both have estrogen. It's a little bit higher in women than men, but estrogen is responsible for our female characteristics. And so estrogen helps control libido, fat metabolism, bone health, brain health, and skin health. So if you have low estrogen, then women will suffer from hot flashes, trouble sleeping, infrequent or no menstrual periods, migraine headaches. Men, when they have low estrogen, they're going to have excess belly fat and low libido. Now, on the flip side, we have high estrogen. And so women that have high estrogen, they're going to see weight gain in their waist, their hips, their thighs. They could have heavy menstrual periods or premenstrual syndrome, also known as PMS. They could have fibroids in the uterus. They could have PCOS, which is another thing. Endometriosis it's sometimes called as well. They can suffer from depression as well as low libido. Now, men, if they have high estrogen, that can be a cause of erectile dysfunction, also a cause of low libido. It can cause infertility. Men can see dry skin. They can also get something called gynecomastia, which is enlarged breast tissue, which is not necessarily muscular. So the reason we talk about estrogens is because there are these things called endocrine disruptors, and you can Google this. You can find out a lot about it. You hear a lot about it, with water pollution and things that are happening with plastics in the oceans and things like that. But endocrine disruptors are everywhere. They're typically chemicals. They're in our pesticides. They can be made in plastics, or they can be stored in plastics. And BPA is a very common one. You see like BPA-free products and cooking utensils and things like that. There's industrial solvents and lubricants that can cause endocrine disruption, as well as personal care products. And this is huge right now with a lot of companies that are trying to make phthalate-free and paraben-free. And you'll see that splattered all over the labels of some of these chemicals, because they're known to cause a disruption to the endocrine system. Antibacterial solutions can cause this, and then also clothing. And that can be a dangerous one too, because we wear clothing most of the time, and there can be chemicals that get absorbed through the clothing into our skin. So those are the three fat storing hormones, but there's also fat burning hormones as well. And again, this isn't a talk specifically on estrogens, but we want to just kind of give a general overview of the main hormones that we want to be paying attention to when we're trying to help somebody that's having difficulty losing weight. And so your thyroid is very important with the metabolism of your body, specifically T3 and T4. We have growth hormone that's activated by exercise. There's also a very close cousin of that called insulin-like growth factor. Low levels of this can be a known contributor to diabetes. Testosterone, which is higher in men, can help with lean muscle mass and maintaining lean muscle mass. There's a hormone called glucagon, which is what helps control your blood sugar between meals. It also helps control your cravings and your body's signal to have you snack or feel like you need to eat. And then adrenaline, which I think a lot of people have heard about, but adrenaline is what helps release fat cells from your body during periods of stress. So there's four main body types, and I love this slide just because it kind of gives a good example of when the body is storing fat, how it's stored can be an indicator of where the problem might be. And so you can see on the left, the adrenal storage is mainly around the midsection. Ovary type symptoms are very low in the abdomen or low in the pelvic area. Thyroid tends to get stored around the middle, so that's your classic pear shape, and we talked about that already, where it can be stored on the thighs and the abdomen, and just kind of makes a general round shape. Then liver belly, the reason you see a male here on this one is the liver belly very commonly is associated with high alcohol consumption, which men tend to consume a little more alcohol than women typically. But that liver type toxicity, that liver type hormonal issue is almost like a basketball, like just taped to the belly. And so it's very obvious when you see that on people, what they're suffering from. The other thing we wanted to talk about is the importance of gut health and how important that is in maintaining weight. And specifically, we're talking about something called leaky gut. Now, there's different versions of this. And what happens essentially, though, is our intestinal system regulates what's absorbed into the bloodstream. So that's where your body will take food, break it down, digestion, what that's known as. And then those pieces are absorbed into the intestinal lining, and the like iron and copper and B vitamins and all the different nutrients that we absorb, those go into your bloodstream so your body can utilize those for different processes that go on in the body. This is an extremely delicate balance because your gut has to let the good stuff in, so the nutrients from our food, but at the same time it also has to block the chemicals and the bacterias and all of the things that we ingest through our mouths. If we damage this system, then that lining gets disrupted, and that's where the term leaky gut comes from. And what that literally means is it allows toxins, bacteria, proteins, and other substances to leak into the bloodstream. So this is undetectable for quite a long time. So you can abuse the digestive system and your intestinal system for quite a while, and the inflammation will be nearly unrecognizable until it turns into something that goes from acute, which is short-term, into chronic, and that can be several years typically. But this causes an immune response, and what happens is you'll start to see things like irritable bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome. You can get autoimmune disorders or diagnosed with autoimmune disorders. Your body can develop acne. Sometimes you can have weight gain, but sometimes you can also see weight loss if you have damage to your intestinal system. But some of the things that cause leaky gut, of course, you can imagine diet is one of them, and especially the American diet, because it tends to be very high in sugar and low in fiber. Genetically, there can be some issues that can lead to leaky gut. There can be stress. Stress is one of the major contributors. Medications, there's lots of different medications. Probably the main one that's the most overprescribed is probably antibiotic use, because it ruins the gut flora, which is the healthy bacteria that exist in your intestinal system. You can have a gluten sensitivity, and that's very, very widely kind of known these days. You can see it on products and people advertising gluten-free this and gluten-free that, because so many people are sensitive to gluten. Dairy sensitivity is a big one, and there's a lot of products that contain dairy. Processed foods, 67% of our food in some cases is highly processed, which means it has low fiber, it tends to be high in sugar, and doesn't have high nutrient value. Alcohol can damage your gut. And then ultimately, it's any food that that causes you personally a digestive disturbance, anything that causes itching, a rash on your skin, can cause you pain. Sometimes it's even leaky joints, achy joints, and also bloating as well. So some symptoms of leaky gut: abdominal pain. We talked about bloating. You can have constipation or diarrhea, acid reflux or heartburn, burping and gas before or after meals typically. Acne, again, dry skin, rashes or hives, itchy skin, eczema. So these are all common things that people take creams and rub things on themselves, but a lot of times it's really the underlying cause is leaky gut. If you're tired after eating, there's something called brain fog, where you just don't have clear thoughts. If you have headaches, especially after eating certain foods, or there's certain things that trigger a headache, that can indicate leaky gut. Anxiety, depression, insomnia, and then also attention deficit disorder like ADD or ADHD. So for the visual folks out there, this is kind of what leaky gut looks like. So if you look here on the left, you can see that the junctions are very tight together. And then where it says GI inflammation, those cells have spread apart. And so you can see at the top there the stress, toxins, food particles, drugs, pathogens, organ malfunctions. Those can all lead to gut inflammation. And ultimately, gut inflammation is going to lead to food intolerances. It can lead to immune system issues, and really just an overall feeling that you're not well. And so that's secret number 2, and that's how to figure out what hormonal imbalances you have and test for leaky gut, even if your doctor says everything is normal. So we will run lab tests on all of our patients that suffer from these types of conditions. And it's one of the things that I think that makes functional medicine unique, and doctors that practice functional medicine, is that we're looking for certain subtleties on lab tests. And the one most common thing that we get is that, well, my doctor ran labs and they said everything was normal, but I still feel like something's wrong. I don't feel right, or I'm still sick. But they just literally, we did a consult the other day, and the patient said, the doctor looked at me like I was crazy and handed me a prescription for antidepressants and said, you're just depressed. Well, she knew that wasn't the case. She knew something else was wrong. But this is one of my favorite graphs because, the big labs that run the tests for just about everybody, those are standard ranges that kind of function for like a broad range of the population. That's what you can see here where it says inaccurate lab range are the 2 gray lines. Now, as functional medicine doctors, we function in that healthy range, which is that green section. So within the standard range, there's a more narrow range, which is where the body is going to be functioning optimally. So the example I would use is your car will run on your car will run on regular fuel. There's a medium grade fuel and there's premium octane. And so, yeah, of course, we could be running fine on the low grade fuel, but if your car is supposed to run premium, then it's not going to run optimally. It's not going to have good power. It won't get good gas mileage. It's going to cost you more in the long run as things start to break down over time if you don't put the right fuel in. But where people start to have issues is in the gray area there where it says you're sick. And that's because the lab ranges are still saying normal, but the lab range is not optimal. And generally, the only time a traditional doctor is going to really pay attention to those standard lab ranges is when it's outside of those standard ranges. And by that time, it's too late. The damage has already been done. And so what the goal is here is to get your lab ranges into that healthy functional range. And that's brings me to the next topic here, and that's that functional medicine blood analysis reveals most things that most doctors miss. And when it comes to weight gain, most of the issues that are causing weight gain are going to be subclinical. And again, this is where you're being told you're fine, you don't feel fine. But what we want to do is we want to prevent serious illness before it happens. And so what we want to look at here, and what we found with testing this over the last few years, is that we want to not only address those clinical findings that actually show up on labs, but we want to make sure that we get those subclinical findings under control as quickly as possible. And that brings us to one of the key points in our office, and this is something you'll hear a lot, is that treat the cause, not the symptom. It's one of our core values. It's what we base most of our treatment plans for patients. And that's because if you address the root cause, what you're addressing is the actual underlying dysfunction. You're not treating the symptom, because the symptom is what happens as a result of something else going on. So what we want to focus on is what's causing dis-ease. And that's not disease, it's dis-ease. And that's where your body isn't feeling optimal. So again, this is why we say being overweight may not be the problem. It might not be your fault, because there's something else happening. And with what we're finding, it's hormonal or gut in a lot of cases if you're having trouble losing weight. So we need to figure out why your body is storing fat and not burning it as fuel. And that also means we need to run the right tests. And so in functional blood chemistry, it tends to be more detailed than just a standard lab panel that's run as part of an annual screening or just something simple that might be ran at your primary MD's office. We'll typically run about 26 different lab tests. We'll screen for autoimmunity. We'll screen for hormonal imbalances. We can do this with blood. We can do it with saliva. There's also tests that we can run that can look at leaky gut or look at the markers for leaky gut. This sometimes can be done with blood chemistry, and it can also be done with stool testing as well. So when your doctor has ran labs and they come back normal, this is not going to show underlying issues. It's a general screening, like I already mentioned. It's very broad-based. It's not looking for dysfunction. It's looking for disease. And most of the basic labs are really looking for some sort of medical necessity that's geared toward a prescription-based therapy, not a nutritional or hormonal or even like a mental emotional type connection as well. So how do you reach your ideal body weight even if you've tried everything else? And that's our third secret we want to talk about tonight. And the one thing that's very common, especially with social media, are fad diets, or try this supplement, try that, or do this, and it seems like you're getting all of these different messages, and then you start following one person, and then 7 other feeds pop up, and now it's like, well, what do I do? But the one thing with fad diets and why we don't really do them in the office is because they can be restrictive, they're hard to maintain, they generally work well in the short term, but I don't know anybody that says I only want to be my ideal weight for 3 months or my ideal weight for 4 months, right? So you get burnout, you get diet fatigue. Some of them are very restrictive. And if they're done incorrectly, you're going to get massive sugar cravings. There's going to be hormones that are going to just start firing off in your brain. And you're going to just get a rabid need to go eat sugar or eat something just to kind of feed those hormones, because you have to replace that dopamine center, which is one of the feel-good hormones in your body. And so some diets can wreak havoc on your hormones and your adrenal glands. And there's even some diets that slow your metabolism and can cause your body to store fat and not burn it. So the best approach for us is to pay attention to all these little signs, eat according to what your labs say, and come up with the right meal plan, not a diet, but the right meal plan, the right eating plan that works for what your labs say that you need in order to get your body back in balance. And so the University of Oklahoma has looked at this, and they did a study, and they looked at fad diets and dieting cycles. And so with fad diets or cyclical dieting, it certainly can be associated with poor health outcomes. It can increase your chance of eating disorders. Certain diets can cause malnutrition. They can cause anemias, depending on what type of diet it is, cause hormone deficiencies, and heart problems as well. The other thing that I mentioned is that this mantra, I think it comes from like the 1980s idea of just working out endlessly, right? Or just when the gym era started in the 1980s, and hours, the more I work out, the more calories I'm going to burn. And it was a calories in, calories out type of a mantra. But chronic exercise can actually slow your progress. And what I found throughout the years, especially later on in life as I've gotten older, is that brief sessions of exercise, about a half hour, is probably best. You want to do some sort of a moderate intensity exercise. And it could be bicycling if you want. It could be cycling. You could do weightlifting. That's certainly very good. High intensity interval training or HIIT exercises, HIIT workouts, circuit training sometimes is what it's called as well. Yoga is amazing, and so is Pilates. But cardio for the long term is not best for weight management, and it tends to increase your inflammation, which is also, like we talked about, one of the contributors to weight gain. So 2 to 3 times a week is kind of what I would recommend for most people if your body's in balance. So inflammation is a byproduct of a lot of what we're talking about, and it's very common in our patients. Like we said, that if you're struggling to lose weight, we're probably going to find some inflammation somewhere. So there's markers like C-reactive protein, which is an indicator of general body inflammation. Bloating, swelling, high blood pressure generally are seen with high C-reactive protein. There's another marker called homocysteine, and that's an indicator of gut or cardiovascular issues, depending on how high or what that number comes back as on the lab tests. And then we talked briefly about cortisol, which cortisol is an anti-inflammatory hormone. So the the higher levels of that, generally that's an indicator of large amounts of inflammation in the body. So maintaining a healthy weight might actually save your life. And according to the World Health Organization, 60% of global mortality can be linked to cancer, to diabetes, chronic respiratory disease, and cardiovascular issues. The one thing these things all have in common, chronic disease, is obesity is the common thread, of the common denominator for almost all chronic diseases. We have something called the standard American diet, or the SAD diet. You can find this with a simple Google search, but essentially what it is it's a diet that's high in fat, high in sodium, high in processed and packaged foods, refined grains, processed meats, sugar, and a low consumption of fruit and vegetables. And there is definitive evidence and thousands of research papers and research studies on how chronic disease can be attributed to the standard American diet, especially when you look at a Western diet that gets implemented into a culture that typically didn't have a Western-based food eating program. You can see cholesterol shoot up almost vertically. You can see diabetes shoot up almost vertically when fast food and things like that are introduced into non-Westernized countries. So in our process with our clients and with our patients that want to work with us, we find that an individualized approach works best, because we know that there's not one size fits all. In any patient that we have in our office, everything that we do is individualized for the patient. So we don't do cookie cutter stuff here. So we want to have you, like I said, eat according to your personal needs, exercise less, not more. We want to make sure we order the correct test to determine the underlying cause of what's going on, because remember, we want to treat the cause, not the symptom. And we want to correct the dysfunction. And we're not looking at altering labs with drugs, which is the traditional medical approach, but also we're not looking at altering your labs with nutritional supplements and things like that either. So I want to make sure you don't get that confused, because that's sometimes when you look at functional medicine, patients will interpret, well, instead of taking drugs, I'm going to take nutritional supplements and herbs, and that's how we're going to do this. But that's might be part of what we do, but there's definitely more to it than just trying to alter your labs. And so we have a system that we follow, and we've done this hundreds of times, and we know that it works very, very well. We have the evidence to prove it with lab tests. So what does it take to have success? We have to make sure that your detoxification, your enzyme pathways are properly functioning. We have to identify any food sensitivities that you might have, any hormone imbalances. Are you suffering from infections or virus, fungal infections, bacterial infections? Is your gut in order? Do you have leaky gut? Do you have vitamin deficiencies that we need to address? What type of inflammation and where is it? And then, of course, we need to restore the gut barrier or eliminate any leaky gut that you might be suffering from as well. So to recap what we've talked about tonight, secret number one is hormones and leaky gut can be causing you to gain weight. Secret number two is that running the right lab test can reveal hidden causes of weight gain. And secret number three is we need to take the right approach based on your individual needs. And that's what can improve your health and help you reach your weight goals. So who wants to do this? And does this approach sound like it might possibly be the solution that you've been looking for? And do you want to do it right and do it for sure in the next 30 days? But so at this point, you have two choices. You can do this all by yourself without any guidance, and you can do it on your own and follow your own program and maybe look up and research some of the things that we talked about tonight. Or you can have somebody who's successfully done this time and time again work with you and guide you to get you with the results that you need. So which one would you choose? Do you want to do it on your own, or do you want to have help and guidance? Just let us know in the comments. So I want to talk about our functional fat burning program, and this is our coaching program that we help our patients with. And so some of the things that you can expect within 2 weeks, you can see a reduction in inflammation and a reduction in bloating. Typically after about week 4 to 6, most people can expect about 5 to 10 pounds of weight loss, and within 2 to 3 months, it's possible to lose 15 to 20 pounds. By 6 to 8 months, most patients can meet their weight loss goals, and we've had patients lose 30 to 40 pounds in this time frame. Alicia, of course, did better than that, and so this is very possible with with our system and utilizing the numbers. And what I'll tell patients is the numbers don't lie. And the one thing I do want to say, though, is that results will vary depending on your current health status, your weight loss goals, and things of that nature. So there are some variables that of course, we'll discuss with you. But in general, some very basic progress can be made, or some very, very measurable progress, can be made within a short period of time. So we'd love to talk with you. If this sounds like something that you'd like to do, or if it sounds like this might be a solution that you're looking for and you're finally ready to lose the stubborn belly fat, regain your health, then we'd love to talk with you. And for the next 3 days, we've set aside some time to talk to you and see if we can help you. So what we're offering is a 30-minute discovery call with myself or with a health professional from my team. And we'll speak with you about our process and how we can start mapping out an exact plan for you so you can hit your weight loss goals. It's pretty valuable. It's a little mini coaching session that we do. And so it's definitely a good start to help getting your body, or at least getting you motivated to start getting rid of that stubborn belly fat and getting you on the right track. So you want to book a call right now if you're ready to get to the bottom of why you've been unable to lose weight, or if you've been trying to lose weight for a while and you've tried all the things and you're ready for a real solution, and you're ready to do it right, and you're ready to invest in yourself. So this is our booking link, and we do it through the website Calendly. And so I'm going to leave this up here, and I have a QR code here in a second, but we have quite a few people registered for the webinar. And I do these, and my staff does these, and the doctors that work with me, we do these in between patients. And so we only have a limited number of appointments in the next 3 days. We can probably handle about 12 calls. So we've opened up our calendar for those 12 appointments. And I wanted to introduce you to Stephanie. And so I'm going to bring her on here. So this is Stephanie, and she's our new patient coordinator. And say hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
There we go. All right. So this is Stephanie, and most people don't ever get to see her because she works in an office, but she's the one that takes the calls and books all the appointments, and she's very good at her job, and she will be the one that will take your phone call and help you with the booking appointment. So just want to whoops, there we go. Okay. So this is our QR code here. And so if you want to I'm going to leave this up for a few minutes. And if you want to just take a picture of this will take you right to the Calendly booking link. You can write the link down here if you would like. But if you have a cell phone and you can scan QR codes, this will scan right to the link. You can pick your date and time that works best for you. And we would love to see you get on the right track and get your health back. So I thank everybody for listening in today on our talk about how to lose stubborn belly fat and how to do it scientifically. Thanks, everybody.